Welcome to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Here to talk all things hockey are your hosts, Brad Crisco, Ryan Hanna, and Evan Lobsinger.
So the quarantine has done some good for the world. The environment's healing, I guess, and animals are doing great. And I'm sure there's some silver linings or advantages here, but it's also done a number, besides the obvious bad things, it's done a number on bringing out the worst habits. And two that I've picked up are finding more and more ways to drink. Well, I guess that's the whole point, more and more ways to drink, and shopping online. I just bought a Red Wings Centennial Classic jersey. After when it came out, I ridiculed it because I thought it was ugly, and I've been looking for one ever since. So thank you, Rowan, for fueling and encouraging my new jersey buying habit. So that'll be here soon. And I've recently discovered Micheladas, or at least like a poor man's version of Micheladas. So anything that involves hot sauce and beer and lime juice in general, I'm a fan of. And like chili lime seasoning on the rim. Anyways, I'm having a great time. But I'm not sure what kind of person I'll be coming out of all of this. So,
I bought a KitchenAid stand mixer today.
Oh, that's just pragmatic, though. Mother's Day sale, right?
It's for me.
Did you get it with the glass bowl?
No, but I'm looking to get a meat grinder on it. Oh, yeah.
That's good. You're going to get the pasta maker?
Not the pasta maker, but I also want the sausage casing attachment. It's just going to be a meat house.
Mother's Day sale or Costco?
Mother's Day sale. Pretty solid little deal. So
yeah,
had to do it.
Brad's name on this episode is Tired, which is remarkable, Brad, because the world is on pause. So please tell us why you're tired.
I have children.
I actually forgot. I was like, you can't be tired from work.
As of recording this, I have been awake for 14 hours already. It's 8 p.m., not even.
Sorry, you've been awake since 4 in the morning? No, sorry, you've been awake since 6 in the morning?
There you go, Scooter. Yeah, Hank gets up when Hank wants to get up, and Hank wants to get up earlier and earlier every goddamn day.
He's a busy guy.
His top two teeth are coming in now. Well, one of them's already through. The other one's coming through. So he's just angry all the time now, too. So it's like I wake up with him, and it's not like, go down, have a peaceful breakfast, watch it. No. It's trying to keep this poor little kid from screaming in agony. So it's basically wake up, get Tylenol in him as fast as humanly possible, then some in me, then some more in him, then some more in me, then even more in me, and then hope to God Crystal's awake by that point, and I can go to work.
We actually had a pretty adventurous weekend. We had two different click and collect or order ahead pickups for things out of town, one on Saturday and one on Sunday. So today, Sunday, we went to IKEA like an hour away to get a giant ass picture frame because we had art with no frame just sitting. So the shipping on it was like $60. We're like, no, we'll wait till we can drive there and pick it up. So that was exciting. I got to see a highway again. Haven't seen one of those in a while. And yesterday we I know you guys have been pretty wrapped up and interested in the story of our kegerator. We're getting rid of our kegerator. So Mel's family, like her family and her like cousins and aunt and uncle all built it together, and so they kind of rotates between them. And we'd had it since we bought the house, so it's a high time we gave it back. And so we went out and got an even bigger kegerator that can hold 2 kegs and has 2 taps, so twice the beer.
Productive. If you're going to double down on the shitty person you become during the quarantine, you might as well be more productive at it.
Yeah, you get me. Well, this is a Red Wings podcast. This is a hockey podcast. So thanks for bearing with us as we gave that droning intro to our lives. Welcome to the Winged Wheel podcast.
Yeah, this intro was just the replication of any conversation you'd have with someone who you bumped into at the grocery store that you haven't seen in like 6 months.
That's almost everyone at this point.
And the grocery store's eerie. I'm Ryan Hanna.
I'm Brad.
I'm wanting to buy a haircut.
Yep, your hair looks fine, man.
It's out of control. It's wild,
It grows in straight. Look at mine. It curls out. It's like, hey, I haven't had a haircut.
Yeah.
Just do what I did. Get Kat and Mel to cut it.
I'm going to do a mohawk, I think.
When in Rome. It's when you're in quarantine, nobody sees you except for our listeners on YouTube. So if you want to get weird, like I attempted to grow a beard, something I never thought I would ever do in my life. Although the weirdest thing that's come out of the beard adventure for me, when the quarantine's over, Crystal doesn't want me to shave it.
Oh, geez, the world's changed.
I want to get rid of it, but that might not be an option at this point.
Evan, how much money to shave the Winged Wheel podcast logo on the side of your head?
Who has the artistic ability to do that?
I don't know.
Nobody said it had to be good.
Yeah, just try.
Instagram versus reality.
Yeah, come on. Do you think Kat would do it if you put her up to it?
Yeah.
How much
Got
money?
nothing else to do right now, just like everybody else.
Okay, name your price. Come on.
Speak for yourself. I'm working. I'm prepping a store.
I don't
to
even
open
know
here soon.
because I don't care about my hair at all. So
$1 it is.
The,
All right,
the guy who says he's willing to buy a haircut in his name doesn't care at all about his hair.
Oh, exposed. On this episode of the Winged Wheel podcast, we of course are going to be talking more about the news that we are so sorely awaiting with the potential for a June NHL draft. Any updates on that? Spoilers, not a lot. More thoughts and feelings. What return to play can or would look like. The Red Wings RFA situation. We'll just touch on that a little bit and then do our draft profiles before heading into overtime. So a little bit of a haphazard show today, but it's not going to stop the stove. It's not going to stop the stove from rolling on, you know? Oh boy. Hockey, please come back soon. There was like that stretch of like 5 days where all the draft news was like rolling out, and everyone was like really pinned in on it, and it was just like hockey Twitter was active again. Everybody was excited about the potential for hockey again, and I just felt so alive and with purpose. And it's just petered out again, and I'm just like, oh, so sad.
Yeah. You can tell exactly how interactive hockey Twitter is at any moment based on the amount of tweets I have. And I think I've tweeted once since Wednesday. Oh, no. Yeah, maybe Wednesday.
You want to know what someone said to me? They're like, can you tweet more like hockey content? And I was like, where? From where? Where do I get this? Where do I find this hockey content? Do I make it? Do you want me? What do you want me to do? You want me to go out there and play and then report on it? Where's this hockey content? Well, do you think I'm hiding it? I'm keeping it on the shelf. It's Big Winged Wheel podcast, keeping hockey content scarce to drive up the price. What are you talking about? Tweet more hockey. Yeah, hello.
I mean, Dylan Larkin, good at hockey. Send tweet.
I don't know what they want. Like everyone and their mother is doing it. Let's look back at this series, like the Canada Cup or like the Red Wings 09 or 08 Cup Finals, or let's rewatch this game and like live tweet it as if we're all watching it. And like, you know what? Kudos to those people. Kudos. It's content. Some people like it. A lot of people like it even, but it's just like, I can't. It's not for me. I can't just like start like live tweeting games and pretend anyone on my feed is going to know that I'm talking about like the 2013 game 2 of round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like it doesn't really, we can't drum this stuff up out of nowhere. We'd love to, believe me. But until then, we're stuck looking at Brad's giant ass forehead. Sorry, YouTube. Okay, the June draft. The last time we spoke was the last time we had any kind of major update, which was that things did not go well at the Board of Governors meeting, and the decision would most likely be delayed until next week, which is now starting tomorrow. So we're recording this on Sunday. So depending on how the week shakes out, by the time you're listening, there might already be a decision. So if there is, stay tuned. Depending on what kind of news it is, we might be recording sooner or later than usual, depending. So we're going to try to work with it on that, but hopefully there's some kind of news within the first half of this week. So between then and now, obviously not too much has happened except for a little bit more information about what happened in those meetings. And, the crux of it is that like there was a few different issues teams really brought up, but it was the draft lottery odds that they really, really hated. They really hated how advantageous it was for Detroit and Ottawa. And they really hated that it was only like the top 5 teams that were considered. And I know I've said this, but how bullshit is it? And I'm sorry for the people who don't love this swearing this early in the episode. I know they're like, it's okay later on. But it's just frankly bullshit that the teams with like 1.5% chance of winning the draft lottery are pissed off because that 1.5% chance was taken away from them, when by all rights they're about to get a chance to win the Stanley Cup in this weird asterisk expanded playoffs where any team can win it. Like, it is so asinine and so backwards. And yes, I'm biased because I'm only considering this from the Red Wings perspective, but how annoying is it that these 1%, 2.5%, even 3% chance teams are like, well, no, now our chances are gone. Too bad, bro. It's like this isn't a world where everyone gets to have exactly what they were allotted at the beginning. That's just not what we're working with. We're talking about expanding the playoffs by 50%.
Ryan, oftentimes sports mirrors real life, and the 1%ers absolutely control everything. Where have you been? This is very on brand for society.
That was good. I teed that one up from you and you took it away. And to any billionaires listening, I'm sorry. And please send us a lot of money. Evan.
No.
I think this is the same proposal I drew up last episode, but I tweeted it out just in case I thought of anything different. And here's the thing. The league and everyone keeps talking about a 2014 playoff, and that seems to be the only way to kind of mitigate the who makes it and who doesn't thing. Who doesn't think, because people or teams don't exactly love the points percentage. It's not a huge hit, but it seems like teams don't love anything, so who knows anymore. Regardless, assuming we're going with the 2014 playoff, 31 teams in the league, right?
Okay, hold on. 2014? I'm not fully sure what. 24. Got you.
24 teams.
I thought you were getting like the lockout shortened season confused. I'm like, no, that was 2013, not 2014.
It could be the fact that recording this podcast remotely sucks, or it could just be the Micheladas. This is not my first. 24 teams in the playoffs. 31 teams in the league means 7 teams not in the playoffs. The way I look at it is, if you're getting a chance at the Stanley Cup this year, you are not getting a chance at first overall. You can move up in the draft lottery, but you're not getting a chance at first overall. So here's my proposal. 15-team draft lottery, just like it was supposed to be. You can only move up 6 spots. So only teams 1 through 7. So as it stands right now, Detroit through Buffalo, or however they want to pick, the 7th best team or the 7th worst team. So Detroit through 7th worst in the standings have a chance at Alexi Lafreniere or whoever they want to take first overall, Marco Rossi if they want to be wild. They can get first overall. But there's still 15 teams in the lottery. So if you can move up 6 spots, bam, if you're 15th, if you're Columbus right now, you can still move up to 9th. So if your team's 8 through 15, you get to double dip. You get to play for the Stanley Cup, and who knows, your number might be drawn and you get to move up in the draft lottery 6 spots. And I feel like that opportunity to double dip should be enough to get you to shut up and stop, pissing your pants about not being able to win first overall, when it's not. You shouldn't be able to do it in a year where there wasn't a worldwide pandemic that canceled sports regardless, but especially now, just shut up about it,
So let's play devil's advocate here, just for the sake of argument. Not saying I'm going to agree with this stance, because I actually don't know. Haven't made up my mind on it, but just for the sake of argument. Are we looking at this too linear about you're in the playoffs so you don't get the draft lottery? Let's put ourselves in the shoes of a Habs fan or a Hawks fan.
You took what I was going to ask.
Yeah. Would you rather hop into the playoffs in this 24th team knowing you're going to get clobbered, there's no way you're going to win the cup, or would you rather say no fans in the stadium means we're not missing out on a ton of revenue? I'd rather you do a 20-team playoff and put me in the lottery.
I would 100% rather be in the lottery. The jersey sales alone on getting that first overall pick trump any amount of money you'd make from playoffs this year.
Okay, but what if you enter yourself in the lottery and then you end up picking 20th and bam, congrats, you got Maverick Bourque, but your fans will never forgive you for not playing in a playoff where a team like Buffalo ended up winning it all anyways because of some weird fluke. Right?
Well, those teams won't be picking 20 if you're one of the fringe teams to get in this 24-team playoffs, whatever you're going to call it. You're in the top 10, but now you have a chance to go to number 1. I mean, the the fun side of it, and it's easy for us to say as fans of a team who are very obviously not making the playoffs this year or for a while, and say, yeah, just give us the pick. But I mean, man, the pragmatic smart thing would be, no, we're not going to win the Stanley Cup. I don't want to win a round or two and hurt my draft position even more. But more importantly, man, does Alexis Lafreniere change either of those organizations in a hurry? So, yeah, I think I would rather do that. Now, no team would ever admit that publicly, but I wouldn't be shocked if there's conversations going on behind closed doors about like, hey, guys, we'd rather this, but if you're insistent on a 2014 playoff and putting us in, that's fine. We'll be happy to play the games. But you're not taking us out of the lottery because that's our Stanley Cup right now, realistically. So that's probably where most of the pushback is coming from. I don't think the league will be hearing any complaints about the draft lottery from the Tampas, Bostons, Torontos of the world. They don't care. They know they weren't going to be in it either way. They're too high up that even if they get bumped up 5-6 spots, I mean, pick 26 to 20, not that dramatic of a difference. They don't care. It's these tweener teams that are absolutely going to be kicking up a fuss because they were going to be in the lottery, but now they're going to be in the playoffs. They need the lottery more. They have a case because how many teams have we seen jump up from 7 to 15 in the last few lotteries? So they know they hit. So, yeah, I fully agree with their arguments here about not taking them out of the lottery. I agree that fairness and all this crap does not matter in the middle of a pandemic. You do whatever it is. I think the whole conversation of altering the draft lottery, and I've mentioned this on this podcast before, taking my Red Wings bias aside, I think there's no reason they should change the lottery format realistically. In theory, yes, a team could win the Stanley Cup and the draft lottery. I think it was Dom on The Athletic actually ran his model to see what the odds of that were, and it was like a fraction of a percent. So, yeah, to me it seems dumb to change an entire format because of like a 0.1% chance at something. As a Red Wings fan, I'm thrilled that this is a conversation because, hey, it only benefits us. Any other format than what they're offering now is better for the Red Wings. So obviously I'm not upset. But I absolutely get the argument from everybody, not everybody sitting picks 7 to 15 because they're the ones getting screwed on this because they're not winning the cup and they're getting taken out of the draft lottery. I get it. I agree with them. Again, going back to what I said last episode, though, it's a pandemic. Nothing is going to be right. Nothing is going to be fair. Everything is weird. We are going to have to accept drawbacks, no matter what you want. Now, there's better ways to do this, and the NHL is doing it because they're going from one extreme to the other, but whatever. They're going to find their happy middle ground, and everybody's going to be angry. We're going to be angry because we lost our top 2 guarantee. Other teams are going to be angry probably because their odds aren't as good as they otherwise would have been. Welcome to life. Everybody's angry. Everybody hates each other. Who cares?
It's tough to feel bad or sad for Chicago.
I don't know when we flipped for me to be the mindless, like objectively irrational raging one and Brad to be the pragmatic one. I both didn't consent to this and also don't mind it right now. Look, you're completely right. I won't even say you're not wrong. You're completely right. If you're a GM of Chicago or Columbus or whoever, you're not doing anything besides fighting for every single inch of ground that you can hold. You want your chance to play for the Stanley Cup, and you want your chance at Alexis Lafreniere or Quentin Byfield or whoever else. You have to keep fighting for that. You're not going to not do it because 3 meatheads on the Winged Wheel podcast said, no, please be nice to Detroit. That's just not the way the world works. And that's not the kind of insinuation that I want to make. What I am, and this is an emotional response, like I'm not even going to pretend that this is even grounded in like reality removed from all bias, but my emotional response is the NHL needs to sack up and say, all right, yeah, we hear it, but too bad. We're doing this. We're doing this because we need the revenue. We're doing this because, whatever other reason they want to draw up. It's just happening this way. You're not going to like it. Too bad. Find a precedent to hold against us. There is none. This is the best solution that we have.
I think
Is it technically the best solution? Probably not. But again, it's an emotional
I think
response.
if it wasn't Montreal and Chicago at that very fringe spot, the backlash might be slightly less, because we all know that Montreal and Chicago are big revenue teams, and they have a bigger stick than a lot of the other teams who are on the outside looking in. Like, do you think this would be such a big deal if it was Minnesota right at the absolute fringe, or New Jersey, or Columbus? Like,
Yeah.
it's not a bit. I don't think the league would care as much. But since one's an original six team and one's plays in the Winter Classic 6 times a year, they have a bigger stick in this argument than the other teams.
It's funny you mention that, because you know me and my conspiracy theories. I'm always against them. I always think people blow those things out of proportion. Because I've been hearing things that people think the Red Wings possibly favored odds here. It's a big conspiracy theory, but the Montreal Chicago point's relevant though, because those would be the last 2 teams in a 24-team playoff. A 24-team playoff is insane to me in terms of fairness. With because we're missing 10 games. Are you telling me Montreal was going to make up the 10 or 12 points they were behind in 10 games? Absolutely, in no reality were they going to do that. But Montreal and Chicago are 2 of the biggest attention draws in the NHL, so of course you want them in the playoffs at any chance you can get. That's why we're talking about a 24-team playoff and not a 20-team playoff. I guarantee it. If you want to go on conspiracy theories, although that's not a conspiracy theory, that's just business. That's good business by the NHL. Yeah, we have an excuse to expand playoffs and get some bigger markets in here, and even smaller markets. We're getting more markets in here. Great, let's do it. Everybody will be happy except for the teams that are missing out on the draft lottery. Of course this is going to happen. And again, this is completely unprecedented. Nothing is fair. Everything is wonky. All the NHL should do right now is try and maximize money. And I don't care. I really don't care how they do that. Just do it.
Just
don't
put the question marks to rest. Just give us a
Yeah.
resolution so we can all move on with our lives.
They're trying to be half pregnant right here, and that's the worst thing the NHL could do right now. If they had just laid down the law a week ago, this is what we're doing. This is our plan. If COVID-19 says screw it and ruins everything in the next month, so be it. You just cancel everything. No harm, no foul. Nobody's leaving their house. It's not like we're getting gussied up to go anywhere. We're right where we were if it all goes up. But and by now, people would be done talking about it in a controversial fashion. They'd already be talking game plans. Buffalo's going to play Toronto in the playoffs. That's cool. Oh, man, the Senators are picking 2 and 4. I bet they're thrilled. I wonder who they'll pick. We'd already be on that conversation. But no, they keep drawing it out, and just making it worse on themselves, because now all we're talking about still is the controversial ends of it rather than the fun strategic ends of it.
It's like watching Lost. You just want it to end, but it just keeps going episode after episode after season after season.
Why is that such an apt comparison? Why does that make so much sense?
We're stuck in the simulation right now.
Lost
What it is.
doesn't even make sense as a show.
No, should have just stayed in the hut or whatever it was.
Oh, in case anyone is avidly watching on YouTube, and I don't understand how, like, people who watch on YouTube, like, whether you watch the whole time or because we don't exactly, like, this isn't like a favorable like multiple camera angle setup like popular podcasts have right now, because obviously, you know, pandemic. But in case you were wondering, I did just order another Michelada, and Mel is bringing it to me, so it cost me $1, but it's a price I was willing to pay. I know. I was explaining this to Mel earlier. It's not even about Lafreniere, because I think any rational Red Wings fan has to understand that the best, like, over the moon, out of this world scenario for this team and this fan base right now was a 57% chance at Alexis Lafreniere. And that sounds great because we're embedded in this, but you remove yourself from all context, that's a 43% chance that you still don't win the draft lottery, which is a massive amount. By all rights, it's a coin flip. It's like a slightly weighted coin flip. The importance of this was the guarantee of Quentin Byfield, or who, you know, some people have an argument for Stützle or even Raymond at number 2. But it's a guarantee of second overall. And that's what was dangled in front of the Detroit Red Wings fan base and all of a sudden taken away here. And that's what's just driving me insane. What's so difficult is like every single year we've done this show. What is this, our 5th draft?
It feels like it's been 100.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
every
were
time-
doing this when we drafted Gronwall, right?
Maybe.
The draft was still in black and white.
We didn't have YouTube, but we were there for the Eisman draft. No, this is, I think, our 5th or our 6th draft, and we've gotten better every time at not marrying ourselves to certain picks. Yeah, not marrying ourselves to certain picks and not marrying ourselves to a certain like game plan or thinking that we can predict how all the teams ahead of Detroit would pick, or even, as we learned last year, even predicting how Detroit would pick. And we've been better and better at making our peace with those scenarios so we can, A, provide analysis on them, and B, not cloud our judgment. Because look what happened with Moritz Seider. Yeah, of course, we would have preferred Trevor Zegras or whoever else at the time, but it doesn't take away from what Moritz Seider brings to this team. We were there with Lafreniere and Byfield. We were there. No Red Wings fan reasonably expected it when over 50% chance likelihood was 4th overall. We were talking about Raymond. We were talking about Stützle. We were talking about Rossi. We were talking about whoever. And now they ripped that away from the Red Wings fan base and said, no, it's Lafreniere Byfield. It's one of those two. And boy, does it look certain. I'm telling you, the NHL is saying so. And it's not going to go any other way. And it's Lafreniere Byfield. And we're thinking, oh my God, we either get like a magical game-breaking winger or possibly a physical freak #1 franchise center. Oh, this is like literally the best case scenario for Detroit. And then they were like, oh, I don't know. Montreal was really upset, so now we might have to rethink it. Anyway, just Detroit's drafting 31st overall. Also, we're closing down the Little Caesars Arena. Sorry, guys. And it's just so like we were there, man. We were in a good spot.
We got teased. We got teased. We got fluffed up and everything.
This was all a test. This is
Now
all.
we're standing here with our pants down, wondering what happened.
Literally, I don't have pants on right now.
This is, I can't even describe it because, well, A, you said we wouldn't marry ourselves to any picks anymore. If we're picking first, I promise you I'm marrying myself to a pick. But we know how the draft lottery history has gone for the Red Wings. In the 3 draft lotteries they have been in, they have dropped a combined 6 spots. The benefit of being the worst team in the league is, well, you can't pick worse than 4th. The downside is we once again can't move up in the draft, so we can only fall or stay the same. Stay the same is a massive win, but even if we pick 2nd overall, technically the draft lottery screws us again. I'm not going to go on the same anti-draft lottery rant that I went on last episode because I probably talked way too long while I was doing that, but it's just...
You're just noticing this now, 5 years in?
Yeah, I know. But you basically said what everybody's feeling. Like, it's frustrating. Tell us we're picking 7th. And then when we find out it's like 4th, we're happy. That's
right?
all I ask for at this point. I want my expectations to be exceeded for once.
Under promise, over deliver. It's not a hard formula.
Exactly. Tell us it's a 10-team lottery, even if only 2 teams can win it. Tell us. I don't care. Like
Gary, just rig it. Gary, just rig it. Just rig it. You did it for Pittsburgh. Just do it for Detroit. Just do it. It's cool, man. Just do it.
Yeah.
And we're not even threatening to relocate the franchise. Detroit's not even doing that like Pittsburgh was to Kansas City back in the day. Just do it. They deserve it.
Detroit does deserve it because, as we talked about last one, we're the one team that was this truly bad, honestly.
We couldn't get better.
Like,
I don't even know if we could have got worse, to be honest.
We got Sam Gagner, and we probably did 7 featured episodes on him.
And
He was
we played 6 games.
He was our 4th best player.
Oh, man.
on the plus side, I watched A Wood put up the Philip Zadina season highlight video, and that got me through a day of quarantine.
Look, if Montreal wins this lottery, that goal that Zadina scored against Montreal will be the only thing that keeps me on this earth.
I can't even process Montreal getting Lafreniere. Man, we think Leaf fans are insufferable by and large, but could you imagine Montreal fans with Lafreniere? We would be insufferable with Lafreniere, and we're not even French Canadian. Now imagine if we were French Canadian. Imagine if the Red Wings picked first overall and the superstar was born in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, the Montreal is basically Leaf fans with a lot more French and a little bit more aggression.
I would say a lot more aggression.
Yeah, they tried to class action lawsuit Zdeno Chara, so that just tells you everything right there.
I mean, when you have a fan base that has 24 Stanley Cups and then the Leafs, one of them has a bigger leg to stand on, and they use it.
But both fan bases don't remember either championship.
Actually, Ryan, have you been alive for a Canadian team winning a Stanley Cup?
They won
because your birthday's November, right?
They won the Stanley Cup, and then 5 months later, I was born.
Oh my God!
Well, it's Ryan's fault.
You did this to the country of Canada.
We're gonna get a lot of angry francophones.
You're welcome, every other team in the league. Before we move on to not just inane rambling about the draft lottery, question for you two. Last episode, did you see me stack all of these coasters on my head one by one? No. As I was talking to you?
I can't see the top of your head with the way your screen is set up.
Oh yeah, because I don't see the way Evan has the recording bar.
See, I can see all the way to the top of my head and part of my roof on my camera, and I bet you can barely see above my eyebrows right now.
No, we can see it to about your hairline.
Yeah, and I've got probably that much in my screen above it.
Okay, let's talk draft prospects while we're still talking draft here. We're going to make this another interesting prospect because it might be extremely relevant to Detroit. There's obviously a lot of chatter about the Red Wings taking a good long look at Tim Stützle wherever they pick because of the German connection between him and Moritz Seider. Obviously, it looks like, or there's a possibility that Steve Yzerman, formerly Tyler Wright, and Chris Draper found some kind of market inefficiency by drafting out of the DEL pretty high, and they might look to revisit that with Tim Stützle. However, Tim Stützle is not the only German prospect being looked at this draft, and a lot of you have questions about, well, who do we target in the second round for the Detroit Red Wings? JJ Peterka is a great focus for that kind of pick, and a player that admittedly all three of us are a big fan of. So today's draft prospect profile is JJ Peterka.
John Jason,
please come to Detroit.
I'm not betting he sticks around till pick 32, but here's hoping. Great skater, great offensive instinct, good passer, great hands, shots all right. Little inconsistent. Again, playing against men, though, not a huge shock. If you were 17 years old playing against men and you weren't a little inconsistent, you'd be Tim Stützle, and hence why you're in the top 5, likely top 5. Peterka, obviously, he did well in the DEL. Obviously didn't put up the big numbers that Stützle did, but he put up respectable numbers. But the thing that's got me excited about Peterka is how well he performed internationally, because we've talked about the German World Junior team at length because of Stützle and because Mo Seider was the captain of them. But that was a team that leaned heavily on underagers, Lucas Reichel, JJ Peterka, Stützle, and they did well. They beat the host Czech Republic. They avoided relegation despite being in the group of death. I think they took a lead against the U.S. either deep into the second or into the third period. So they had a great tournament. And when, I hate basing an analysis on a player based on Stanley Cups or wins or all that stuff. But man, when you've got a trio of 17-year-olds leading your offense and you're doing that well, that can't be ignored. It just can't. And then you couple it in with, obviously, you can see the way he plays. You see his skill sets. You see his stats. You see his underlying numbers. And it paints an overall very, very good picture. He's got a more impressive resume than a lot of the Canadian prospects, despite the mediocre numbers in the DEL. I hate saying mediocre numbers. I mean, he's a 17-year-old playing in a professional league, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, Peterka is a pretty intriguing prospect for me, the same way Kaliev was last year. he seems like a guy who has that kind of potential first round talent, and for one reason or another, he's going to drop to the second. Kaliev didn't drop to the second because of the same reasons as Peterka, but I'm kind of alluding to that inefficiency, I should say, in terms of prospects. He's not at all a certainty. Like Brad mentioned, he didn't really have enough consistency for him to be ranked in the first round, which is fair. But also, if that's only because he was a very, very young man playing in a league full of grown men and professionals for the first time, then you're sure that he's going to grow out of that. And then, bam, you have a guy with high-end skill, and you got him in the second round. Peterka showed really, really strong flashes of talent. His offensive abilities are fantastic, and I firmly believe not even fully realized, or there's a potential that we haven't seen everything that he can do. His top end speed is phenomenal. He's got great hands. I think his offensive IQ is really, really good. The way he anticipates the play in the offensive zone, I think it is extremely strong, especially for a guy who's had limited opportunities like him. You don't see it every game, and it's kind of further between those highlights that you'd like to see from Peterka, but it's still there. And in my mind, the fact that he's shown it as much as he has means that the natural resources are there. You just have to tap into them in the right way. And it's a risk for sure, which is why you're not seeing him go, 12th, 13th, 14th. But at pick 32, man, I would be thrilled with a pick like Peterka. He's not... I've seen criticism of his lateral skating, but for me, if you have that kind of top end speed, you can teach the kind of footwork or teach him to anticipate the game and position himself in a way where he doesn't get caught and he doesn't have to just kind of fly all out to be in the right place at the right time. But still, like with the kind of flashes of brilliance that he's shown, if Peterka pans out as a second round pick, what's the worst case for him? Like a power play dynamo? Like, that's not a guarantee because he could for sure sputter out for whatever team picks him. But at the same time, like you have a potential first round talent that you're going to get at the second round because of a team taking a risk.
Yeah, he definitely is raw. And I think that's why there's debate on where he'll go in this draft. And I think looking through some of the scouting reports on him, his consistency is lacking, but he is young playing in a men's league. It is very, very difficult to have consistency in a pro league. But he looks really good. He looks like he's got all the tools to play in the NHL. It's just where is he going to go in the draft? After the World Juniors, he could be one of those guys the team falls in love with. And if they're looking to take a swing with a couple extra picks they might have, or they might trade up for him, he could go in the first round. If he's there at 32, I'd be very surprised, but Arthur Kaliev, Bobby Brink both went in the 30s. So you never know what's going to happen, but he looks like he'll be a bit of a project, but a very promising one.
It bears repeating that in almost every draft, once you get past pick roughly 20, 25, you're not getting a prospect without warts. You're just not. So you're betting on traits. And when you have the kind of offensive ability and skating that Peterka does, though, that's a hell of a start and a couple of traits that you can easily work with to turn him into an NHL player. So, again, if we're talking pick 32, he's the absolute ideal type of prospect you pick at that point. Again, I'm not betting he's going to be there, but if he is, hallelujah.
Yeah, what Brad mentioned holds true, and just think of it this way. Peterka and Antti Tuomisto would be wildly different picks in terms of what kind of player you're choosing at that spot, but they would still both fit the mold of this is a project. It comes with a risk just inherently by where they're picked. So no matter who you're selecting there. Okay, before we get into let's just dive into this next topic, which is I mentioned before I gave airtime to stupid rumors about Anthony Mantha. So if I'm going to do that, then the only fair thing to do now would be discuss Anthony Mantha going on the record about, wanting to stay in Detroit, etc. So he told, I think it was the Detroit News or the Free Press, I can't remember. I'm sorry for getting that one wrong or not remembering at the moment. But he essentially mentioned that there haven't been any discussions yet about his contracts while everything's kind of frozen, which I thought was a little bit interesting. And at the same time, He also mentioned that, his goal for the season was 30 goals, which he wasn't able to hit because of injuries, et cetera, et cetera. So what got me thinking was he's on for $3.5 million a year right now, or $3.3 million per year right now, and that deal is up. So he's up as an RFA. What would be the number for Anthony Mantha where you would shout from the rooftops that this is an unbelievable victory for Steve Yzerman in terms of term and cap hit?
$4 million. 10 years.
Yeah. Yes. Circumvent the cap.
Realistically, if we can get him under 6.5, he's not going stupid cheap, and unless he goes stupid short term. So yeah, if you can get Mantha less than 6.5, I know he hasn't scored 30 goals in a season yet, but that's only because he hasn't played a full season. His last 2 years, his goal per game was well past a 30 goal pace. So if you can get a guy of that skill set for that little of money, of course you do it. And this is the inherent risk reward, because he's been injured, so we don't know if he can stay healthy. But this is the exact type of time where you can get a bargain deal on a guy because he hasn't hit 30. I don't think there's a Red Wings fan out there who wouldn't classify Anthony Mantha as a 30-goal scorer, except for the fact he hasn't scored 30 goals. But if you gave him the money of a hypothetical 25-goal scorer, that's a huge win. So I'm comfortable with the Red Wings going long-term up to 7.5, 8 mil a year for Mantha. But yeah, anything 6.5 or less, I think Yzerman's coming away with a big win.
He's about, 26 right now?
25, I think.
If he just signed 8 years by 7.5, would you be happy?
8 years by 7.5?
Yeah,
I wouldn't do backflips for that contract, but it's fair.
It wouldn't be my favorite.
You never know with what the cap's going to be. Might go down $20 million.
Yeah. The 7.5 isn't what bothers me there. It's with the way Mantha plays. I don't know how durable 33-year-old Anthony Mantha would be, but I mean, I'm pretty confident at least till 30, 31 he'll be a productive player. So if we get 6 good years and 2 crappy years, that's probably worth the trade-off.
I'd be pretty happy with like a 7x7 for Mantha. Anything better than that, and I think would be a pretty good victory. It is risky inherently though, because he's, like you said, not the healthiest player. He tends to get injured for like 10 games at a time, which is not good for hockey players. If you've noticed, as they come back from those injuries, they were gone for 10 games, but give them another 10 to get back into game shape and up to game speed and pick up any pace. Or if they were on a hot streak, that's gone now, which we saw with Mantha. At one point, he was scoring at like a 49.6 goal pace.
At one point, he was scoring at 200 something goal pace. By the end of game 2, he had 5 goals in his first 2 games. So what's the pace there, Ryan?
I will not be typing that math in right now. No, it's not. Wait, sorry, 5 goals in 2 games?
Yeah, he scored in the season opener.
205.
There you go.
Yeah.
Wayne Gretzky, who?
Yeah, honestly. It wouldn't be bad. Like you said, it wouldn't be bad if he got the deal that we just talked about of like north of 7. But if Yzerman, and I feel like this is the kind of negotiator Yzerman is, if you look back at his Tampa Bay contracts, if Yzerman can capitalize on Mantha's, I'm calling these shortcomings now, not entirely his fault, and sign him now to a longer term deal, that's kind of his MO, and that's almost what I'm expecting. I'm expecting to see a 6 as the first number in his dollar value. And I think that would be really, really strong for Mantha, or a strong contract for the Red Wings if they could bring Mantha in for that number. If it's like $6 million by like 2 or 3 years, like I'm fine with that legitimately.
2 or 3 years? God, no. You want Mantha going into unrestricted free agency at 27 or 28 years old?
He's making bank.
Yeah, and it won't be in Detroit.
Okay, but
I mean, you need someone on the team who's good by the time we expect them to be good.
Right, but you would hope that Mantha, if he pans out, is one of your top like 2 or 3 players on the team by that point. So let's say Larkin, Lafreniere, and Mantha are your 3 best players.
Yeah. And you want Mantha under contract for less than $10 million, because that's probably what Lafreniere and Larkin are going to get on their long-term contracts.
That's fair. I think I'm just maybe not banking on Mantha turning into a $10 million player.
No, I don't think he'll ever be a $10 million player. He could be a 40-40 guy, though, and what the hell is that worth?
Before COVID-19, a $10 million player.
Yeah, I mean,
Now?
he was...
5.
Pack of gum.
Yeah, well, there you go. You got to get him signed long-term so we can save the money for Lafreniere.
I've got $20 cash and some belly button lint.
Where do you get
That's
20
the
bucks
best offer
cash?
I got.
What's your address?
Well, no one takes it anymore. Cash
Nobody
is
should be
worthless.
using cash right now. The belly button lint's worth more.
Exactly. It's warm. You can start a fire with it.
I did all of this. Like, I'm taking all these precautions, and we actually have an N95 mask at home just from like Renos. Been using that when I go out to grocery stores and stuff. We've been trying to support local businesses. We tried a new pizza place really close to us. We ordered a delivery. Guy comes right up to my door, like face to face with me. No like gloves, nothing. Just like hands me the pizza. Like is right there, like talking, laughing. And then I close the door. I'm like, Mel, don't worry about quarantine, man. It's over for us. If that guy had it, we have it now. This is so annoying.
Well, Ontario's about to lift all the restrictions right now, so my work's got me prepping to open a retail store. So I'm sure that's going to go well for me.
On the course.
It's not that Evan doesn't believe that you should not stay home, or it's not that Evan believes that you shouldn't stay home. It's Evan wants to golf, in case you were wondering.
Yep.
Evan would actually golf with COVID-19.
Yep.
If
Evan
there
would
was
golf in a hazmat suit if that's what we told him it took.
I would golf with the snow outside yesterday. If I could golf right now, I would play. Hell could be taking over the world, and I would play right now.
It's the opening scene from This Is the End, and Evan's just in the middle with his 9-iron.
Evan, if I gave you $100, would you be able to get me a decent set of clubs off of like Craigslist or Kijiji?
Define decent.
Decent for me. Like, I'm not going to hurt my game by playing with these clubs, but they will help me to some degree.
I mean, I bought a vintage set that has some right-handed clubs that were made in 1956.
I don't want to play with anything with lead or uranium in it, please.
Yeah, you might get some weird rashes from it, but it would probably work. And I spent $40 on those.
Well, the good news is with those clubs, you'd hit the ball would get so hot from whatever chemicals are coming out of the club, it would just make its own hole when it hit the green.
Exactly.
That's true. Okay, last quick point here. And I'm not going to dive into the whole discussion about what return to play would look like, but I saw something, which is that one of the teams in the NHL requested that if there are like hub cities or like central cities that the league returns to, if they are able to return, they are requesting that, say they pick like one for each division, that home teams don't get to, or teams don't get to play in their own cities. So they would have to go play in a different hub to level the playing field. So they don't have the advantage of being able to, go home or play their own home arena or that kind of thing. And at first I was like, well, that's stupid. And then I was like, that's a massive advantage. Like, just think of how big of an advantage that is.
Massive advantage?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a massive advantage. There's no fans. There's no...
It's not the fans. You get to go home to your own house. You get to see your family. You get to sleep in your own bed. You don't have to like sleep in a hotel.
That could, well, from a happiness standpoint, yeah, it's an absolute disadvantage. From a performance standpoint, a lot of guys say they play better on the road because they're more focused because they don't have the distractions. I mean, you get your own dressing room, but I'm assuming you would have to share that with other teams because if you've got 8 teams playing in your hub, right, you're going to have to, I don't know how many dressing rooms an arena like the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto would have, but I'm pretty sure the Ottawa Senators or whatever team isn't going to take the janitor's closet. I don't know.
The Leafs might actually be giving Ottawa the janitor's closet now that we talk about it.
Probably. I don't think it's that big of an advantage. And to me, like, a lot of players are already upset that if they do this hub idea that guys are getting pulled away from their families for 2-3 months. So I think it would be kind of a dick move to take 4 more teams away from their families when you don't have to.
To be completely honest, if I was an NHL player and we had to go back to work, I wouldn't even want to go home after games. Think of the uncertainty of some of the conditions the other players may have been in, and then they just spit on you or their sweat fell on your face and then you rubbed your face. Like, there is still a percent chance that there could be some cross contamination, and I wouldn't want to make that risk of giving that to my kids or my wife or my spouse or whatever, or my cat. So I would much prefer to play on the road than potentially, create a patient zero within the NHL little bubble.
Honestly, can we look back at what Brad Marchand did when he licked whoever it was a year or two ago? And
they should just put up a massive poster that says, "Don't do this."
We can now recognize. Yeah, like it was gross at the time and everyone was laughing. I'm like, no, that's disgusting. That's like, if that happened on the street, that would be assault. And now we can all recognize how biologically disgusting that is. I was mortified. I was like, I don't know where Brad Marchand's mouth has been. Don't do that.
Nor do we want to know.
Well,
nowhere good.
It might be useful epidemiological information now.
Some poor grad student could have done their dissertation on that. Science lost that day.
How close is TD Garden to Harvard? Harvard.
I think it's pretty close. Let's see.
Oh man, this is science happening right now. Do we have anything else we want to do before we get into overtime?
It's 11 minutes, but that's without any traffic right now.
Are you guys saying that Brad Marchand's tongue would be a fringe case?
Maybe. I accidentally just clicked on my Outlook app instead of my web browser, and now all of my work emails that I've obviously not looked at over the weekend are popping up one by one, and there's so many. I'm devastated for tomorrow, Ryan. Let's get into overtime. Overtime, of course, is this is a weekend episode. I thought it was midweek. It's a weekend episode. We're going to get to a few different spots here, but we're going to start off with Patreon as our way of saying thank you to our Patreon supporters for supporting the show and helping to keep us going through this quarantine. Before I do that, I want to recognize two people, which are Daniel Rossi of RD Woodworking, who built us this gorgeous custom podcast table, which you guys, of course, cannot see right now. If you guys go to rdwoodworking.ca, you'll be able to see all of the work that he can do for you wherever you are. Message him if you want custom cabinetry, if you want a custom table, whatever it is. The guy is supremely talented. Cannot say enough good things about the work that he does. So thank you, Daniel. And we cannot wait to showcase this table off more once we can start doing this podcast in person again. And then secondly, we want to thank Everett at Born to Dan Hard on Twitter for supporting or sponsoring our latest giveaway, which is a 3-tiered giveaway for all Patreon supporters. Automatically entered based on your contribution level. So there's 3 prizes. The third prize is a $25 gift card to Vintage Detroit's web store. The second prize is a signed puck from a current Red Wing. And the top prize is a customized jersey of the winner's choice. So thank you, Everett, for sponsoring that. Patrons, stay tuned to see who wins that. We'll probably announce it in a future episode, a near future episode. And thank you to both of you. All right. Without further ado, overtime. Let's start off with a healthy amount of comments today. Uploading more. Alex Zucco says, "Hey fellas, happy Sunday to our friends to the north, technically east from here in Grand Rapids." Not Zucco, Zuko, sorry. Helene St. James wrote an article today about some refreshingly realistic UFA forward targets, Nemesnikov and Dadonov being the most interesting to me. My question is which you'd rather see in the red and white. Selfishly, I'd love to see Stevie build up the Russian pipeline again and get one or both of those guys in the mix along with Timashov and Sveshnikov. Sending you guys a virtual cling with my Red Wings Special Edition Labatt. Alex Zuko. Come on, Ryan. I'll bet you said Zucco again, eh? Oh, I did too. Mesnikov and Dadonov, who would we prefer?
Neither. I mean, Nemesnikov is he's fine. Nemesnikov to me is quintessential guy, which means he's an upgrade on at least 70% of the Red Wings forwards, so I can't complain too much there. He's the younger of the two that's going. Dadonov is a far better player, but the problem with Dadonov is he's 30, I believe. And I don't think the Red Wings are in a position right now to be signing 30-year-olds, at least not good 30-year-olds like Dadonov or Dadonov. I forget how it's pronounced. I mean, if the Red Wings are signing a 30-year-old, it's like Thomas Vanek or Val Filppula because you know they'll take a short-term cheap deal. I don't see Dadonov doing that. So I mean, if Nemesnikov, he's young enough, and if he's cheap enough, sure. And if Dadonov's willing to come short term, couldn't hurt. But I don't see that happening.
Okay, for a fun little non-hockey question, let's hear the fictional character that each of you would most closely associate with from your favorite hockey movie. Bonus points if you pick someone from D2. It's not D2, but the goalie from Goon.
Rule number 1, don't touch my Percocet. And 2, do you have any Percocets?
It's one of the Russians that make fun of him. Is anyone else seeing this shit? We're on the same team. That's me with these two meatheads.
Oh my God. I'd say Adam Banks, but my family was way too poor for that. I'd say Goldberg, but I'm not a goalie.
Well, the actor
He hasn't aged well either.
Self-fast.
Meth is a hell of a drug.
Really is.
What's the name in the movie Goon? I can't remember the character's name, but the guy, the superstar in Doug Glatt's team with absolutely no character.
The French Canadian?
Yeah, he's really, really good, but everybody hates him.
Yeah, because he's a douchebag.
Yeah, I'm that guy.
Yeah, that makes sense. Evan is what's her name? The cat in Mighty Ducks.
Julie the cat.
Yeah, that's it.
I'm Ogie Oglethorpe.
Joseph Delia says, "Sup, my dude. So I recently got into hockey cards. I have a few jersey cards, but I don't know much about sets. I ordered a 1920 MVP because Baby Z was on the box. So Bradley, do you still collect and do you know the best value in sets? I guess you can just give me a quick synopsis on hockey cards for the other two hosts: poutine, golf, poutine, golf, 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 poutine, beer, snowboarding, beer. Poutine,
You recognize how mine are sports and yours are carbs, right?
I honestly take no issue with that.
Fair enough. It was just an observation.
It's better than hockey cards, I'll tell you that.
True.
Yeah, I casually collect now. I'm not super deep into it. Just pick up some Red Wings stuff that I need here and there. Honestly, the hockey card industry over the last 10 years has just been ruined. It's awful. There's 3 sets worth collecting, and most people can't afford 2 of them. Upper Deck Series 1 and 2. SP Authentic, and the Cup. Everything else costs way more than it's worth to buy a pack or a box. So if you're looking to do it just for fun, stick with your OPCs, your MVPs, because they're so cheap it doesn't even matter if you get anything good because you barely spent anything.
OPC, yeah, you know me.
Yeah. Series 1, Series 2, SP Authentic, Cup. I don't touch anything else, and I can't afford Cup, so there you go.
Matt Platt says, so all this draft lottery talk has made me get upset all over again about how ridiculously hard it is for the worst team to get the best prospect through the draft and how easy it is for fringe teams to jump up 13 spots. Any chance you think this offseason will inspire a lottery odds revision given the previous years that we got jumped, such as Carolina's picking Svetch when they just missed the playoffs? Doesn't seem the best system to promote parity. That team that barely managed to get 17 wins but swept the Habs and had a negative 122 goal differential deserves Lafreniere. If you don't agree, you're probably a Habs fan. Let's go Red Wings, and thanks for the content, boys. Matt, I think now more than ever, these rules will be revisited once things settle, and that's air quotations on settle. I guarantee you that's one of the things they look at.
And it will probably be even more unfavorable.
Definitely, because it's the NHL we're talking about here. Josh Terrell says, Dub, seems thus far you guys don't seem to be as high on Braden Schneider as other outlets. Is this due to a possible lack of offense, ceiling, and fit into the modern NHL? Thanks as always, fellas.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, that was always the thing for me. I don't think he's a bad prospect by any means, but I don't want the safe pick for Detroit, right? Like, I don't want a Patrick Nemeth. I don't want a guy who will fit on the third line. Like, I don't want, a okay goalie for the pipeline. Like, I want them swinging for the fences for any picks through rounds 1 and 3.
If you were to equate what Braden Schneider would be in the food world, he'd be a plain cracker, unsalted.
Wow, Brad.
There's functionally nothing wrong with it, but there's also nothing particularly exciting about it.
He's also a right-handed defenseman, and it's not exactly like...
Oh, well, he's going top 10 then.
Well, and Detroit's not trying to pick up a right-handed defenseman right now. So, like, it's nothing wrong with the pick. It's nothing wrong with the pick. Just in terms of the style of player Detroit's looking for, it just doesn't quite fit. So, Detroit's going to pick him in the second round.
Man, you're talking about Detroit specifically. I struggle to find a reason why any team should pick him before the middle of the second round. Yeah, he's good defensively. Great. Those players are a dime a dozen nowadays. We just got Patrick Nemeth for $3 million. That's what Braden Schneider is. A slightly better maybe slightly better offensively, Patrick Nemeth.
Garrett TV says...
Yeah, not putting a premium on that pick.
Hockey Amigos, a lot of unknowns and process rule tweaks literally are likely required to salvage the seasons. It got me thinking, pandemic notwithstanding, if you were commissioned given a magic wand to implement any 2 new rules to the NHL, what would you do? Could be pandemic related, gameplay related, whatever. The NHL world is your oyster. What changes do you make and why? I literally said this exact scenario to Mel in the car, and I'm sorry for cutting you off. 2 things. Gold plan, but the version where you have to be mathematically eliminated before you start to accrue points to the lottery standings.
That is literally the gold plan.
Well, there's a version where you get to declare when you want to eliminate yourself.
Oh, yeah. The version I read said it's when you're mathematically.
The original. So the gold plan and the 3-point win system. Those are my 2 things. Bam, help the NHL right there.
I'm going to also go with the gold plan, and I'm going to banish offside and goaltender interference reviews. Gone. Be done with them. Let's move on with our lives.
I'm getting rid of all reviews. No more reviews at all. Just get rid of them all. If we allow one, we're giving an inch, and people are going to take a mile. And the other one, every team needs to have a mascot. Detroit, step up. And that's it. That's all I got.
How are you going to fit an octopus in those aisles?
That's the great
chaos.
The great aspect of it. Bring on the chaos.
If Gritty exists, Al the octopus can exist.
The rule will be then if you sit within 2 seats of the aisle, hold on tight to your beer.
Gritty has more Twitter followers than like 3 NHL or Instagram followers than like 4 NHL teams.
That's awesome.
What was I going to say here? Garrett's ideas are free agency or UFA status after 5 years instead of the current 7, which would change how ELCs are handled, and ensuring that hooking isn't called on principle for wrist contact. I would love to see UFA status be pushed up as well. I'm not so sure I want to reduce the amount of penalties called, because as you get further and further away from a rule change, penalties tend to decrease arbitrarily.
Yeah, I would put more penalties in place because there's a lot of interference plays that don't get called right now. That is BS, and I absolutely do not want to see UFA status moved up. Like, it's better for the players, but if you want parity and competitiveness, you can't have a team like the Red Wings losing Dylan Larkin at 23. You can't.
Peter Polshansky says, "What's up, boys? Hope this Mother's Day finds you well." Oh, happy Mother's Day, everyone. We're so sorry. Happy Mother's Day, Crystal. Wasn't sure if that's spelled with this C or a K. Anyways, it's actually an R. It's silent. So
it's a Q.
Yeah.
It's Crystal with no F.
Anyways, I just finished Sean McIndoe's Down Goes Brown History of the NHL. If you've not read it, I suggest you order a copy. We've given away copies before. Great book full of super interesting little stories. One that I found particularly funny involved the 1990 draft. Calgary swapped the 20th pick in the draft for New Jersey's 11th. Calgary got their guy, Trevor Kidd. New Jersey ended up selecting Martin Brodeur. I remember Kidd as a career backup, and it made me laugh even more when I looked up his junior numbers. Playing for the Brandon Wheat Kings and Spokane Chiefs, he finished with 139 games played, 53 wins, 67 losses, 4 ties. The goals against are 394. I know goalies were not what they were today, but come on. Who in the right mind would move up that far to select a goalie with those stats in the round? Number 1, passing on Brodeur, Felix Potvin, Doug Waite, Peter Bondra, and Sergei Zubov, to name a few. The Flames, that's who. Have a good one. Hope this June draft bull crap gets figured out soon. Let's go Red Wings. Matt Zolkowski says, hey guys, long time listener, first time caller. I don't have much to add about the conversation right now as to 2 months into no sports. We've talked about nearly everything. One recent thing I found interesting, or maybe not, and I'm not as tied into baseball as hockey, is the MLB unilaterally deciding to shorten its draft from 40 rounds to 5. Really?
Oh, apparently you can sign anybody that's not drafted, though.
It appears the MLB isn't concerned about fairness, so why should the NHL? After all, this is a made-up game played played by made-up rules for our entertainment and their profit. Preach, man, preach. If Bettman thinks this is the best move for the league to make some money and get some attention, then he should just do it and not care what anyone else thinks. I'm rambling a bit here, but I just want to get to what I want to get to is this. What if we took the MLB's idea and went one step further and eliminated the draft entirely, a la European soccer, and allowed teams to identify and develop their own talent? As the league currently stands, what teams do you think would succeed from a Canadian's perspective? How strong is the desire to play for the hometown team, and would this perhaps override a larger U.S. market? We could probably spend an entire podcast on the topic. Anyways, hope everyone remains healthy. Thanks for continuing to record these podcasts. It greatly helps to relieve the boredom. Let's go Red Wings.
See you later, Arizona.
Yeah, the rich teams would dominate. If you were a small market, you might as well fold now and save your money, because it probably benefits us, but the Rangers, the Red Wings, the Leafs, the Canadians, the Bruins, the Penguins, the Hawks, there's your next 100 cup champions. Because, oh my God, if you could sign, what would stop Lafreniere, McDavid, Eichel from all just going and signing with the same team?
Toronto would win everything. Well, they would manage to lose everything even more miraculous.
Well, there would still be a salary cap, so at some point, those players would have to figure that. The teams would have to figure that out. But yes, having those players when they're 12, it gives you a massive advantage to figure out your financials in 6 years.
I was going to say, there's a salary cap. They wouldn't be able to keep them all, but between entry-level contracts, you get a hell of a sample size to evaluate who the 10 best players in the league are and keep 5 of them.
We had this kid when he learned how to tie his skates at 4. I think he'll be good. We'll keep him.
K-Waz, who is our resident fighter pilot in training, says, "Sup, my dudes, and happy Mother's Day. Life update. Got to fly my first solo last week. That was by far one of the coolest things I've ever done. He sent us a video. It is badass. It is metal as hell. Probably the coolest thing, if I'm being honest. Being up there without anyone in the backseat judging and grading you is so freeing. Hockey related, who is your bold prediction to have a big improvement / good season next year for the Red Wings, assuming the season goes, of course? And how is that May snow?" I hate the May weather right now. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, my favorite part of the May weather right now is, as dumb as it is, the Canadian Snowbird fighter jets were going to do a lap over Ontario to show appreciation for the nurses, or I don't get the connection, but whatever. It was a nice thought. But the Snowbirds couldn't fly because of snow. So, yeah. And my dark horse candidate for a breakout on the Red Wings this year, so I guess we're not picking any of the obvious candidates, so I'll go Dmytro Timashov.
Is he the only good answer to this question?
Brendan Perlini.
Perlini would be an acceptable answer.
De
Kaiser. Well, he was doing well before he got hurt. Bowie would be a terrific answer.
It's true.
Anthony Mantha.
Dennis Cholowski is my answer, because I want it to be true.
Sam Gagne.
Peter Quill. I will not hear Sam Gagne erasure. Peter Quill says, "Hey gents, from last episode, a Red Wings line with one player in each number tier. I'd argue y'all forgot number 24, Chris Chelios. I'd take him over Rafalski." Yeah, I thought about Chelios.
But we had old Chelios. He was still good, though.
Yeah, we didn't do him justice by not including him. As for the draft versus 2014 playoff, here's a fun idea. What if the NHL lets teams 17 to 24 decide if they want to be part of the draft lottery or playoffs? See, I thought about that.
Didn't I say that a few episodes ago?
Yeah, but we don't listen to you. They can adjust the draft odds and playoff seedings around that. If you choose playoffs, you're out of the draft lottery completely. It'd be fun to see NHL teams that could then be in the playoffs potentially admit to their fans that they'd rather have tanked for a better draft position than make a legit playoff run. Puts teams in a pretty funny spot, and I'm here for it. I kind of like the chaos. They'll never do it because it's the NHL.
How about we just figure out the draft lottery first? Give me something.
Yeah. YBK says, "Howdy, gents. Patreon system is garbage for writing actual comments." Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Anyways, where I live, a lot of sports games have yearly versions of the same player as different entities, i.e. 08-09 Nick Lidstrom would be different in terms of in-game stats from an 02-03 Lidstrom. With that in mind, let's take the 4 Stanley Cup teams of the modern Red Wings era. For each one, choose the player who you think would have the highest overall rating based on that season's performance, including playoffs, and then choose which of the 4 would be highest. COVID-19 has me rocking sports games out the wazoo, so I figured why not bring that into question. Stay safe and covered in facial hair, you dingbats. That's an interesting question.
to me, the answers feel pretty obvious. 97 and 98 is probably Yzerman. 02 is Lidstrom, and 08 is either Lidstrom or Zetterberg. Zetterberg won the Conn Smythe, so I guess tiebreaker there. But
yeah, but should Lidstrom have won it anyways? Is the question. No,
Yeah.
I think in 08, I think 08 and 09, Zetterberg legitimately turned into the best player on the planet in the playoffs.
yeah, but
I
are we
think
not?
free.
We're including regular season though, aren't we? I
Did Lidstrom win the Norris 08?
think so.
I think that's exactly it. I think it's Steve.
I mean, Yzerman.
is there an argument for Fedorov?
Yeah, there's an argument for him, but I mean, Stevie was still like on the tail end of his prime for those 97, 98 Cups, and he's a top 10 player in the history of hockey, so hard to argue against him.
Ian says, indulge me in a long comment brought to you by COVID idleness. Top 10 seasons of my life. 2012, 2013. Team in decline, plays over its head, gets farther than it should. 94, 95. Obviously disappointing final, but first time I felt like I was watching an elite, unstoppable team. Honestly, barely remember. I was 10. 06, 07. Datsuk slays playoff demons. Franzen double OT goal against Calgary. Fun series against San Jose and even Anaheim. 08, 09. Don't want to talk about it. First 3 rounds were fun though. Got punched at a Ducks game. 2010, 2011, a Filppula goal to almost come back against San Jose. My top moment as a fan, including cups. 95, 96, regular season record. Yzerman double OT goal against St. Louis has to be a top highlight in Wings history, beginning of Avs rivalry. 97, 98, least memorable cup, but a cup is a cup. 07, 08, cup I was most adult for. Osgood returns. 96, 97, first cup in 42 years. Yzerman era coalesces. 01, 02, best team of all time, but still very dramatic playoff. Finally beat rival Avs in playoff comeback. Yzerman era and Zetterberg era. Triple OT winner for Larionov. Man, that Larionov goal I will never, ever, ever forget.
It's easy to forget that if Detroit doesn't win that overtime, Carolina's up 2-1 with the next game also being in Carolina.
Yes.
Like that was very close to that series swinging the other way.
Archer's Urbe's pads were eating pucks, literally. That was looking harrowing there for a few hours. Eric O says, would you lose a couple second rounders to jump up to the later first and pick up Ryan O'Rourke? Seems exactly the kind of defenseman we need. He's been getting some press lately, so I imagine he's going to move up in the first round instead of falling back to us in the second. Thoughts?
I'm big on Ryan O'Rourke, but I don't think you need to move up to get him. I think he's going to be a second round prospect. And if he's not, that means someone else really good is falling.
Connor Layton says, hey, fellows, while looking at draft prospects, I came across Keenan Draper, Chris Draper's son, who's apparently eligible for this year's draft. Elite Prospects has him listed as playing in the BCHL next year and then on to Miami of Ohio for college. Any thoughts on if Stevie would take him with a late round draft pick, or would that be kind of conflict of interest? A buddy of mine brought up a similar situation with one of Martin Brodeur's kids, who was drafted 7th round in 2013 by New Jersey as more of a nice gesture. The Red Wings took their longtime team dentist's son, who you will know as Alec Regula, before trading him away. Not necessarily just out of kindness, but it's not, I don't think conflict of interest really exists in hockey. It's a very nepotistic sport.
Oh my God. If your last name is a certain last name, you can almost predict from the age of 9 what organization they're going to end up with. So, I mean, if it's a 7th round pick, sure, pick the kid. 7th round picks rarely ever pan out. Might as well throw a dart at someone you know. But yeah, I don't. They might. I doubt it. I don't care if they do.
Just Your Average Siege says, what's up, guys? So Yzerman, Blashill, and Draper have all been fired. You 3 have been chosen to replace them. Who's taking what spot? I'm not head coach.
I'll be head coach. I'll swear.
Evan's head coach. Brad's head of amateur scouting, because I think that's his actual dream job.
It's up there.
And Brad's gonna hate it, but I think I'm GM just by default.
Ugh.
Who would be the better amateur scout, Brad? Me or you? Be honest.
Yeah, but what's the more important role?
Yeah, me.
Get fucked, Brad.
I'm the GM of the rival team now.
I don't think I think you could switch up who would be Draper and Yzerman between me and Brad, but Evan is quintessential good old boy hockey coach.
Oh yeah. Get the trackies on, boys.
Can you imagine Evan in post-game pressers? Hey, coach, what are your feelings about the game? What do you mean? We lost. I feel bad. This is a stupid question.
I'd be like Belichick, because I have no time for the donkeys who ask stupid questions.
I would love to see an underperforming player getting ready for a morning skate, and You send him down, Ryan, you send him down to the minors. Evan just walks in. Hey, what are you doing there? Oh, I'm getting my gear on. Yeah, I'm going to need you to stop.
It's pretty stupid because you don't play here anymore.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, not you. Yeah, sorry. Sit down. Goodbye.
Evan Beckner says, gentlemen, in regards to the question last episode about making a lineup with one player per set of jersey numbers, I have one follow-up. Would you rather have Rafalski and Cronwall or Chelios and Murphy? Okay, fans aren't going to like me for saying this, but I think Rafalski, Cronwall.
I mean, Chelios, like, if can we take Chelios and Murphy in their prime? Because the primes were not with Detroit. So
yeah, that's different.
Yeah, if we can take as they were at their best, that is the obvious right answer. But if we're taking their best Detroit years, then it's Cronwall and Rafalski.
Chris says, fun fact, the Russian 5 documentary is on Amazon Prime right now. Going off that theme, I've seen the doc a few times, and each time I watch it, I lose a little respect for Don Cherry. He's extremely vocal about not having Russians or Europeans in the NHL then. Not just then, he called Nick Lidstrom a classless European within, like, what was it? Like, that was in the early 2000s, right?
For what was that for? Skipping the All-Star game or something?
I can't remember. It's stupid. I don't care where someone comes from or if they're playing the best. I want to see them play against the best. What if the next wave of players is from Asia? Which, you're going to start to see that. It's doubtful, but if they are the best, and I want to see them on our ice playing against our best. What did y'all think about the way Don Cherry is portrayed?
I mean, I have a lot of... Yeah, very accurately. I have a lot of happy nostalgia with Don Cherry because you grow up watching the guy and you see the Rock'em Sock'em videos, yada, yada, yada. But the more you actually listen to Don Cherry, I mean, there's no arguing it at this point. And this whole, like, oh, I want Canadian players or I want them. It's so dumb because this is going to get into a big, long conversation. So I'll just make my point and then we'll move on. But we're a society that's all about inclusion. We live in a society. Doesn't it feel a touch... What's a word here, Ryan, without getting too extreme? It's like, I don't want a player from this country on my team. That reminds me of a whole something other problem in society. So let's not evolve that into hockey.
Yeah. And also, if you're controlling a hockey team and you're not picking players on anything other than how well they can play hockey, you're not doing the best for your team. Plain and simple, end of story.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't think any NHL teams are doing that anymore, but
no.
It wasn't that long ago that teams were.
Stay Inside Cheese Bags of Fournier Company says, hey there, fellas, to everyone. If you haven't done so yet, stop what you're doing and call your mom and tell her you love her. It appears to me that Lucas Raymond's stock is decreasing due to his limited playing time this past season, and I think he'll likely slide down in the first round. However, and I'm sure Brad would agree, that would be a huge mistake. His highlight reel on YouTube is sick. That being said, my bet is Yzerman has Stützle and Rossi higher on his board than Raymond, given his track record. Thoughts?
I hate trying to predict who a team is going to pick based on previous players. I mean, I get, we pick Seider, so it's natural to pick Stützle. And if Yzerman's thinking like that, Yzerman shouldn't be a GM because that's asinine. As we just talked about, pick the best players. I don't give a crap what your history is. I don't give a crap what your preference is. Pick the best players. If you think they're the legitimate best players, sure. Yzerman is way too earlier in his tenure as a Red Wing for us to know what type of players he wants for this team. He picked a defensive defenseman at 6 overall, and he's almost certainly going to pick a forward this year. So we have no guess as to what he should be looking at. And Tampa so very rarely picked high enough to get an accurate read on what Yzerman would look at this, other than in 2013, instead of picking Seth Jones, he took a very small, unbelievably skilled forward in Jonathan Drouin, because let's not forget, most people thought Drouin may have been the most skilled player in that draft. He hasn't panned out, obviously. So, I mean, would it surprise me for Yzerman to take a small guy like Raymond or Rossi at 3? No, not even a little.
And my page reloaded here. Okay, we're kind of back. Jake Kiefer says, Guten Tag, my dudes. Fun trade question. At bare minimum, what first round pick slot would it take for you to give up all three of Detroit's second round picks? Personally, I'd say the 13th overall.
Just kind of flipping through my head for this 11.
I'm thinking, latest 13 even is a little bit late, but yeah. All right, time for some other questions here from Reddit. Recon Phoenix asked about Mantha and Bertuzzi's contracts, which we mentioned. Darn Fox says, if you had a chance to have one of the Russian five for their whole career starting from 18, who would you pick? Konstantinov, if he didn't get injured, counts. I would say Kozlov pre-car accident too, because but we never saw him pre-car accident.
Fedorov.
More Fedorov. Yarvik7 says, hey guys, loving the show. Keep it up. Here's an idea. Why don't you guys place a call to the NHL headquarters and get Bettman on the phone? Do an interview and convince him to hold a June draft with the old rules. You can do it.
Yeah, no problem. We'll just snap her fingers and it's done.
Yeah, I think I got him on Snapchat.
All right. Evan, pick a number from 1 to 5.
5.
All right. Kakaroto 007 says, hello, gents. What do you think the Red Wings 2020-2021 goalie situation could look like? Would the Red Wings experiment with letting one of the 5 minor league goalies try out for a spot, or should they just sign a guy as a 1 or 2 year stopgap?
Shouldn't we always let them try out?
Yeah.
If Calvin Pickard comes in and has the camp of a lifetime, or Larson does, sure. I still probably would send Larson to Grand Rapids. I mean, the backup goalie market is flooded right now with options that you could probably get a decent option for cheap. So, yeah, I think that's the more likely scenario. Bernier and Grice or something like that.
All right. With that, we're going to wrap up. I'm going to go play NHL with some Patreon listeners. And I also have to do a lot of editing because Evan's internet gave out somehow on his Supreme PC.
Thank you, Rogers.
We'd like to thank all of our listeners, our name-level sponsors, the septic tank of that bitch, Carol Baskins, Arjun Shankar, Jake Kiefer, Bye Felicia, Dead Panda Society, Brad Smith, Andrew Bohan, Scott Martin, Kayla Thompson, Jacob Turner, Matt McKay, Brandon M., Matthew M. Rice, Luke Johnson, Ryan Lewis, Langabir, Clayton Van Dyken, Kaylin Wood, Hassam Al-Qassem, Charlie Elkins, Hannah Lee, Josh Rosnowski, Alex Ott, Chris Frank, Connor Leighton, Danny Jr., Matthew Keeler, Craig Kibble, Simon Anderson, Antonio Gracias, John Evans, Kay Waz, and Stan Olson. Thank you all. Hopefully by the time we talk next, we have some clarity on the draft lottery. If not, I will be completely gray.
Thanks for tuning in to the Winged Wheel Podcast. Be sure to check out wingedwheelpodcast.com, where you can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll also find links to other ways to support the show, such as Patreon, official podcast apparel, and more. And don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Winged Wheel Pod. And of course, the hosts at Brad Crisco, at Ryan Hanna WWP, and at Hockey Town Evan.